Okay. AUCE President, distinguished participants, honorable guest speakers, fellows, students, and alumni of the AUCE community, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to welcome you to the AUCE first webinar about the role of technology in developing new business models during the COVID-19 crisis. Allow me to warmly thank the organizers of this initiative for giving me the privilege of welcoming and addressing you all. For me, it's an honor and a pleasure. In this virtual conference room, I recognize some familiar names of participants from government, the private sector, and major groups from different countries around the world, USA, France, Ukraine, Bulgaria, Jordan, and Lebanon, who have all worked tirelessly on the webinar's agenda. The speakers in the webinar are uniquely placed to debate the main topic of our webinar and highlight the key themes of this meeting, trends, and current practices for the audience. The webinar's mission is to advance the research, education, and practice aspects of new digital business models in order to offer a leading network to address the profound impact of digital transformation and open a new path of opportunity for the future of work in the knowledge economy. On the behalf of the AUCE community, I would like to initiate the opening of the webinar activities. I sincerely hope you will enjoy the next hours of lectures and debate. Thank you for your participation, attention, and presence. I would like to invite Dr. Hani Haidura to start with the introduction presentation. Dr. Haidura is the Vice President of the American University of Culture and Education. He is a researcher and has many international publications. Dr. Haidura.
Thanks, Dr. Rania Karam. Dr. Rania, she is our Dean of Faculty of Business. She is introducing our seminar for today. Esteemed professors, colleagues, friends, ladies and gentlemen, I am pleased to welcome you to this webinar titled A Role of Technology in Developing New Business Models During the COVID-19 Crisis for the Sustainable Development Goals of how we can provide an efficient digital platform that aims at providing key inputs of recovery, ranging from education to managing changes and many other interesting subjects of interest. Once again, we are gathering today because I strongly believe that we all have a big and crucial role to play in this unprecedented pandemic, which is mounting a major impact and concern on the future of young adults, not just from the virus itself of COVID-19, but because of its impacts on the economy, employment, education, and the overall health system. Esteemed attendees, despite the challenging circumstances, I am more inspired by your resilience and by your commitment to contributing to this humble webinar, which is already being enriched through your presence. It's critical that we engage from different schools of thought to exchange valuable information to continue the nourishing journey of our young men and women. This, indeed, will be noted in time to come that there are scholars who care to repave, reinvent ways so that the educational system is mingled and merged with technology appropriately to ensure quality delivery. And needless to say that we are striving to reinvest in ourselves, in skills, tools, and technology to meet the challenges of providing the best channels of managing the required affairs for the well-being of our nation. The major outcomes that we expect from this virtual conference are how we can embrace with unexpected force change in our behavior and how we can rebuild valuable and implementable tools to enable us to deliver measurable quality education with the concept of social distancing caused by COVID-19. We will be also tackle issues such as the codes of conduct and best practices in the educational field in Lebanon. Last but not least, I would like to thank all participants who insist to dedicate time to share with us their experience, knowledge, and competences throughout this humble and valuable conference. Thank you, stay safe, and God bless.
Thank you, Dr. Haidoura. Dr. Rania Sadeh is a professor in educational leadership and organizational change. She received her doctorate from Roosevelt University, Chicago in 2017. Currently, Dr. Sadeh is a school principal and she is also the Chicago chapter president of an international non-profit medical organization. Dr. Sadeh's life work.
L'argent, c'est là-bas au terroir.
I think you have to mute.
Dr. Karam, you mute your sound.
Dr. Sadeh's life work, passion, and leadership has been dedicated to advocating for children in and out of the United States. She regularly speaks on volunteerism and grassroots movements. She also serves as an expert of these topics in different settings, college campuses, schools, and other institutions. Dr. Sadeh has a master's degree in education and teacher preparation and art education from the University of Central Florida and a bachelor's degree in English literature and ESL from Yarmouk University in Jordan. Her academic research explores intrinsic and extrinsic motivation in education through qualitative research methods. Dr. Sadeh is a proud mother of 2 amazing kids. She is fluent in 2 languages and is a 2-time Chicago Marathon runner. She is a traveler, reader, and a philanthropist. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Sadeh. Dr. Sadeh.
Thank you so much for the wonderful introduction. I'm very happy to be here. So good morning in my situation, it's 8 a.m. And good afternoon to everyone. Good afternoon to AUCE community. Thank you, Dr. Karam. Thank you, Dr. Haidoura, and all the esteemed educators. I'm very proud to be here. I'm gonna make a quick disclaimer. If I have a flu or recovering from a flu in this time, so if I sneeze, obviously you won't be scared. You know, that's the beauty of online. And I have all my handy dandy tissue box and tea and everything I need. So I'm good to go. Today, my name is Dr. Rania Sadeh, and I'm a professor in educational leadership and organizational change, which is where my passion is, creating educational environments for students that are productive, that are not old-fashioned, and that are, you know, conducive to their learning. And of course, that has changed dramatically of how I look at education due to COVID. So that's what our topic is for today. I was invited by Dr. Zayater, so I thank them for that, to share my experience with COVID and its impact on online education. Although I do not claim to be an expert in technology by any stretch of the imagination, I am becoming an expert in online education by learning and teaching what has and has not been working with online education. We're obviously all learning how to cope with these ever-evolving conditions while information and technology are moving faster than we can grasp them. I think for the best of experts. Our role as educators is to stay on top of the latest findings, especially with our tech-savvy kids, students. We have to make sure that we're on top of it as well and learn from them. Research and technologies that will create a better environment for all our students and faculty. My topic, I chose a topic by entitled My Navigation Through Virtual Education, Online Learning and Teaching in the Time of the Pandemic, is really my story, the story of my life, my journey with online education. the actual online education, the history of online education as we know it today, really began in 2005. My journey started in 2007. I started teaching online education to college courses to an online school. They have an on-ground campus, but they were predominantly online, and I did that for 8 years. And in those 8 years, from 2007 onward, I always got the same response from many people. What does that look like? What do you mean online? Do students see you? Do they not see you? How do they learn? Is it an actual degree? You know, these were things that were far-fetched for so many. And I had to explain myself. And the university that I worked for was very advanced for its time. We primarily used Blackboard, which is, I think, a platform that's still utilized in many universities. Obviously not as good as what we have today, but it was ahead of its time. Years went by, I resigned, and I took on, left that position for other positions, and took on other roles in online. I'm not sure if there's a slideshow, sorry. I didn't know if I was supposed to request the slideshow or share it myself. Do I have access to share? I think I do. Let me. Forgot to do that. Okay. Is it shared? Can you see my screen?
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
All right. Sorry about that. All right. So I took on the role of a private school principal in the United States, and 3 years into my experience as a principal, the pandemic hit. And like everyone else around the world, we found ourselves, I believe March 13th is that golden date, if I call it golden, of 2020, where we all scrambled to figure out how to move our entire school from regular school to online. And we did that where we left March 13th on a Friday, and we went online and started on a Monday. Actually, Monday faculty came back and Tuesday students came back. So that was record-breaking, speed. As a mother of 2 kids, I have experience where I watch my high school student take high school online, and I have a college student son who's taking college online. So I have a view of that. And then I have the honor, and I love it, to teach my college students also online, a course that should only be taught in person because it's teacher preparation. I'm teaching my teachers how to cope with online education now, that their students will be online as well. So I have a very well-rounded view of what online education looks, the good, the bad, the ugly, as well as myself taking online courses as a student during my doctorate. So before I start with the subject at hand, I can't start this topic without discussing or bringing to the forefront equity and online education. This is something I'm very passionate about, and it's a worldwide problem. We're forcing everyone to go online, but we are not all on the same level playing field. We asked teachers to jump online, but we didn't ask if they have internet connection at home, or if it's even good enough or strong enough. Do students have laptops? Do we provide them with laptops? These are conversations that were going on around the United States and still going on. And we have hundreds of thousands of students, K through 12, who are actually missing in action. Like nobody knows where they are. Is everyone tech savvy? And that's an answer that I can easily answer without doing research, that the answer is no. Not everybody's going to be tech savvy, and they're not going to be able to maneuver around the different platforms, especially when one class is asking for Zoom, the other is asking for Google. And then technical difficulties, we are bound to happen maybe daily. And can you troubleshoot? Is your mom elder and she doesn't know anything about technology? How are you going to be able to maneuver around that? So the idea of equity has to always be discussed, I believe, hand in hand with anything we talk about when it comes to online education. If one of these elements are not available to a student, Wi-Fi, laptop, computer access, tech savvy individual in the house, a student, a teacher, and a school as a whole are being treated unfairly, are putting the entire institution at a disadvantage at that point. And I know there's going to be the business finance portion in this seminar, so that will be very interesting to hear how COVID education and finances and business has been impacted. Which is why all the free educational offerings in the US and around the world were a blessing, but for limited time, obviously. A lot of them took that back, like Zoom offers only 40 minutes unless you pay for it. So it becomes pretty costly for people. But on the same topic of equity, the flip side of that, the positive side of that, is that many students, teachers, and educators will have opportunities to gather and to attend courses that they never dreamt of attending. So due to accessibility, the idea of attending a seminar, I'd be on a plane trying to make my way to Beirut if I wanted to attend this seminar in a different circumstance, which is not a bad idea, but maybe in the near future. So we are connected, and that is, we should always consider that a positive thing. With that all said, the system, the education system worldwide has had a crash course in online education due to the COVID pandemic. And the pandemic caused us to really jump out of our comfort bubble directly into action. There was we weren't allocated a grace period to train or to think about it. And sometimes that's the best way to learn, learn by fire. And I really want to applaud everyone, because I've been keeping track of people around the world of how well you've all done, the world has done, educators around the world. I think we all really stepped up and did our job as well as we can. And again, dealing with a pandemic. So psychologically, we're all a little worn out. So moving forward, what I've learned through the years. One thing I've learned that in the online climate is money can buy you happiness. And if you know me, you would laugh at that, because I don't believe in that. But in this situation, sometimes the best platforms out there, the ones that offer you the best and closest that you can get to a classroom, it requires money. So eventually, strong content, online presence, teacher, ambitious curriculum does have to be in place eventually, and content will overrule the platform at times, but a bad platform and bad access can ruin the experience for students who are used to the best technologies. I learned that choosing your educational platform is very important, the tools that you're using in any situation. So it depends on your situation, your budget, your class size, what features you particularly need and want. So you don't have to go with the one that has a lot of video access if that's not what you need. If you don't need the whiteboard, most of us do, opt in or out of the things that you don't need and opt into the things that will enhance your class. As we're gathered here, COVID, of course, is still a pandemic, hopefully not for too long, that's having massive economic impact on the world. And I unfortunately, visually, physically see schools around me closing, shutting their doors down, putting the closed school down, closed due to COVID, and going out of business. Teachers and instructors of all kinds have been largely caught off guard. But the platforms that were available to us, and I have to say Zoom, I don't want to sound like a commercial, really saved at least my school and made it almost fun. I have to say almost. I learned also that no matter how sophisticated your platforms are, the ultimate success comes from the educator. Educators have to make the effort to keep students engaged on and offline. I drove my teachers crazy telling them, are they engaged? Are your students engaged? because if they're not engaged, you're just talking and they're not listening, and it's a waste of everybody's time. So engaging somebody face-to-face is much easier than engaging them online. So we became very, very creative and learned a lot of methods and ways to teach. And I'm talking about 3-year-olds in preschool all the way to college. And I've experienced how to engage that whole range. And I can tell you it's totally different. So, and it's hilarious for the little ones. I also learned that patience is virtue. Moving on. So moving forward with what we're experiencing or what we've experienced, what does the future look like? COVID, according to many, many experts in the technology field, said that COVID has sped virtual learning by many years. Some say almost 10 years. The technology is available and it's better than ever, but you have to find it, you have to know how to use it. Virtual learning is no longer a lecturing tool in the traditional sense. So no teacher should be sitting in front of, which I've seen a lot around the world, where it's just lecturing. And if it's just lecturing, I might as well go and watch a video, right? So it doesn't matter whether you're live or not. But we want to continue developing a virtual culture. And I'm saying developing, not develop, because it's already developed. So if you've had holidays with your family on a platform online, if you've had a meal with your mom and dad overseas, if you've had a birthday party, if you've had engagement, Zoom engagement, all these things, you know that a virtual culture has formed, and there's cultures in universities as well that are forming. These cultures will require imagination and creativity, and the implementation of all these different platforms into the curriculum, as well as open leadership and an innovative mentality to think outside the box now. I think we're all outside the box, which is pretty cool. Learning technology should not be envisioned as a mere utility. So it's no longer, I know we do this in the United States, it's no longer wiring your classes with internet access or putting the smart board in the class and thinking, okay, we're up to date with technology and give all the kids laptops. We have to use it as an academic opportunity. Instructional design, multimedia production, and data analytics are all vital to move us to the next level. And it's a good level to be in. Scholars from all disciplines will have to be motivated, guided, and well-equipped as their courses and programs are recognized and adapted to an uncertain future. And excuse me, these are things that we have to look into outside the box. Excuse me. I'm good. I'm so sorry. All right. So that's moving forward. The good thing is you guys are not scared of my cough, so that's the positive thing. Okay.
You should drink water, doctor.
Say that again.
Well, I think you should drink water.
I am drinking. Thank you. Okay. It's talking. So very few people predicted this outcome, of course, of the paradigm shift that we're experiencing. So these are things that we have to all research and continue to work on. I'll get there. Okay. My experiences with teaching and learning during COVID and hopefully after COVID. If we perceive all life experiences as opportunities to grow, the pandemic has been a strict and serious teacher to all of us. Expectations are high, demands are even higher, but the severity and urgency of the situation pushed most of us to stand up to the plate and to perform. A bit like, I compare it to a kid's game of peekaboo, the hiding game. It felt like the mantra was ready or not, here I come, and it came. If we look at the future of education that COVID will give us, however, it is not all entirely negative if we're looking from a technology point of view. If we look hard enough, post-pandemic educational landscape, we can glimpse some reasons for optimism and some positive impacts on learning. And one of those, excuse me, is that beyond the difficult truths, of course, of schools closing down and universities having to shut certain doors or certain programs, which is very unfortunate, and hopefully they will reemerge later. The negative impacts, with those negative impacts in mind, we can consider all the positive outcomes of technology and education. From experience, I've seen that blended learning will continue to dramatically increase. That's something that we've been knowing since 2005, but now everybody sees it. The remote teaching and learning efforts that all our professors and students are now engaged in do not resemble what we think of as traditional online education. Again, traditional education, online education looks like lecturing. Quality online learning programs are high input operations requiring both time to develop and significant investments to run, which is why it has to start at the top where the money is allocated, leaders are leading the way and not leaving their professors and teachers to scramble to figure things out on their own. Many of us are worried that the rapid shift in remote learning will tarnish the reputation of online education. And I think you probably are all hearing the same thing about the COVID vaccine. Everybody's saying the speed and rapidness of it, can we trust it? So anything faster than the pace that we want scares us a little, but I don't think we have an option. This does not mean, however, that the COVID move to universal remote teaching, moving us to remote teaching, was all bad for students. Actually, we recognized a lot of our students that ended up being better online students than they were in person. So that's something we wouldn't have recognized in the past. The necessity of teaching and learning with asynchronous, like Canvas, Blackboard, D2L, and synchronous, like Zoom, platforms will yield significant benefits when these methods are layered into face-to-face instruction. We will come back from COVID with a much more widely shared understanding that digital tools are complements, not substitutes. The nice thing, I can actually testify to this personally because we went back in person and we are in person. And we've had students having to drop out, whether mom had COVID or they're worried on testing and waiting, or they're not feeling well. That became a relief for us as administrators, where we said, okay, you stay home and you're not gonna miss anything because we're gonna bring you into class virtually and we're gonna give you your homework virtually and you're gonna submit virtually and we're gonna test you virtually. And our school since August has been open and has been functioning And we've been able to send every child home who has any symptoms, like myself, would go home. Residential courses will be better for the practice that professors have received in moving content online. So moving content online doesn't mean what happened in March. Moving content online means exactly face-to-face education, and virtual education has to be hand in hand all the time. So you have to be ready to, I think the mentality of, if the school closes, are we able to go online with minimum disruption to the students' academic progress? So a previous classroom time will be more productively utilized for discussion, debate, and guided practice. And the tension and the scrambling won't happen when you're ready. Online education will be a strategic priority at every institution. Again, thinking of leadership. Very few colleges and universities are doing absolutely nothing with online education. I don't know of any now, but before, again, there was very little that weren't. So every university had some kind of online education going on as of 2010 or earlier. There was wide variation, however, in the degree in which the online education was central to institutions' strategic planning. This all will change and has changed in 2020. In the future, every president, provost, dean, trustee, principal, and educator will understand that online education is not only a potential source of new revenues. Instead, online education will be recognized as core to every school's plan for institutional resilience and academic community and continuity. In the future, personally, that's what we're doing. The parallel online plan has been in place since March, and I request of all our educators that they have online and in-person material ready to go. And they're building that system, of course, as they go. So hopefully by the end of this year, they'll have almost a year worth of material. This post-academic understanding will change how schools plan for, manage, and fund online education. Gone will be the days, of course, when individual schools within a university will be able to go their own way with online education. There will be a standard across the board of what the minimum expectations are. It's going to be a long process and tedious, but we'll get there. Previously decentralized and distributed online courses, development, and school support functions will be, they're going to all be centralized, subject to institutional planning and cross-campus governance. Management of online learning will be integrated into existing academic leadership structures and processes. So making it all focused, making it all intentional. It's not a random, we're going to roll out an online course. It's going to be an intentional set of courses that, again, with minimizing the disruption of student learning, where a student can go from one semester to another, once online, once virtual, and one in person, and feel very little difference. And so that brings me to plan B that should always be in place. One big thing that we've been taught also, that anything in the future to minimize student disruption is something that we will do and take seriously, including hopefully the finances. Being ready means having everything that everyone needs in-house. So jumping back to the school that I am principal of, we literally had everything, what I would consider in-house. So we had the experts in-house, we had the training in-house, we had the technology and what we wanted to choose and how we wanted to choose it in-house. So we didn't have to reach out to outside help or outside vendors or outside experts to perform this. I'm sure if we want to take it to a higher level, we would have to. But we were able to do the fast switch due to the fact that we had experts within. And I think that's what every university will start looking into. I know we have our IT people, we have our online educators, but it's having them with that in mind at all times. Schools that invested in their in-person and online learning design resources were ready for the lockdown and taking all functions online overnight. And that's what we experienced. So the challenges of virtual classroom, I'm sure a lot of you will recognize the two sides, and the physical classroom versus the virtual classroom today. This is taken from a class for Zoom, and it's not accurate even though it's pretty recent. So on the left side of the screen, you'll see the physical classroom. You're doing attendance, assignments, quizzes, tests, group presentations, one-on-one discussions, and so on. In the virtual classroom, you go up to lectures. So you have breakout groups, general questions, whiteboard lectures, and I'm sure most of you have bypassed the 60% missing part, thanks to the platforms that were highly improved. And I can say I went all the way to attendance with my classes this semester. I was able to do every step of what is on here. We watched videos related to the lesson, the lecture, and we were able to discuss, break out into groups. I was able to send comments or questions to each of the breakout rooms, saying, hey, don't forget to discuss 1, 2, 3. We come back, I give them a poll and we quiz. And so it was in 1 hour, 2 hour classes. It was very productive, very active, very lively. So we really did not, I don't want to say we didn't, because that human connection is always nice, but we really were able to feel like we're connected. I know my students now, my college students, well enough to say I know them. So it's not like I missed out on really getting to know them. So didn't have a end of year party, but you know, we got to know each other. So these are things that we can look forward to. Some popular, we all have to be ready, and these are some of the platforms that you're all probably familiar with. Some you've used, some you haven't. Some of the best platforms are Zoom is one of the most popular options because of the user-friendliness of it. For one-on-one classes, people have been using Skype and Google Hangouts for instruction. With more clients, there's Domino, like I've never used that. I've used WebEx, GoToWebinar, or Jet Webinar that I haven't used. So these are all, once you take a look at them, they're all available. They're all, of course, depending on how much you're willing to spend. And the explanations of how to use it, even videos of how to, are all online, of course. So you don't need an expert to teach you how to use these platforms. Live streaming, Facebook, Twitch, YouTube was really the founder of online learning and online education in 2005. They're the ones that started putting out videos, and I'm sure you've had a laugh or two in the past few years about where did you learn this? On YouTube. You know, how did you build a car? YouTube. So it's been very useful, but we moved forward into a much more interactive system. To wrap up, on March 11th, the World Health Organization declared the COVID crisis as a worldwide pandemic. We have experienced what could be considered worldwide collective trauma. Everyone had to be flexible, juggling all of life's responsibilities, and education and educators were in the forefront of all of this chaos. Teachers became actors, comedians, singers, disciplinarians, yoga instructors, and caregivers all at once. We learned creativity and resilience to get through lockdowns in everything we did, and hopefully we can walk away from COVID with new ideas and perspectives. More appreciation to our educators and our communities. But more importantly, I hope that we walk away better people after surviving this trauma together. Not once during the pandemic, and I'm connected worldwide, I really am, that I heard them versus us. It's always been we. Since March 1st of 2020, that small sense of universal togetherness has been my silver lining personally. So I think we the educators, will carry that togetherness into the future and use these technologies to continue to connect the world for the better. And just like we're gathered here today to try to make education better. So with that, thank you. And if you have any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Sadeh, for this extremely interesting and inspiring presentation.
Thank you.
And I hope you will get better soon.
Thank you.
Due to the time difference between Lebanon and the USA and the other commitments of Dr. Sadeh, we will offer the attendees the opportunity to ask the questions now for 7 or 8 minutes. I think we already have 2 questions in the chat. Would you like me to read them for you, or you can see them?
Sorry, I'm trying to close a few things here. If you can read the first one while I figure this out.
We have a question from Yara. How do you think professional education bodies would integrate the inclusion factor within their technologies, since we all come from different parts of the world and our learning needs vary? This is our question.
So you read Yara, right?
Yes.
Hi, Yara. How do you think the professional education buddies would integrate the inclusion factor within their technology? If Yara can just add to, what does she mean by?
Apparently it's Rayan, but from Yara's iPhone. Rayan,
since we all come from different parts of the world.
Rayan?
Is Rayan available?
Okay, we will move to.
I can touch upon it a little bit, because I don't think our educational needs vary. That's the point. I think we're all going towards the same goals, the same educational needs. We're all going step by step, trying to achieve pretty much. I always say in a more positive way, but I say humans are boring. We're boring species. We're very predictable to some degree. We have a line of needs, and so I don't think we're that different when it comes to technology and the needs that we need to cover. I am looking at. Sorry,
Muhammad Ali. We have another question from Muhammad Ali.
Hello, Muhammad. What is your comment on therapy and healthcare after keeping up through the online education system for instructors and students involved in online learning? And so the comment on healthcare and therapy, like people getting healthcare and therapy during this time? If Muhammad is available.
Yes, my question is about what's your comment on people involved in online learning, taking like healthcare and involved in therapy, the stressful.
So you're not talking about like taking education to become a nurse. You're talking about taking a class to de-stress, right? So if it's to de-stress, I'm all for it. Definitely. There's a lot of online classes that provide that. As for medical or nursing, that's also online, you know, not the best education now. It will improve, but that's definitely a face-to-face kind of education. Thank you.
We have Dr. Rushdie who would like to ask a question.
Yes.
Dr. Rushdie? I think you have to unmute.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hi, Dr. Rania Karam and Dr. Rania Sadeh. Thank you so much.
Hello.
First of all, Dr. Karam for this hosting of this seminar, and Dr. Rania for giving us the privilege to be with us today. I have a small question. I want to thank you first of all, Dr. Sadeh, for being with us.
Thank you.
And wish you good health later now as well for my MBA class, Advanced Strategic Management. And we were talking about many things, and then you talked about something like saying online learning has offer any educational organization. I would like to ask you, I mean, if you give like small description for my students, how do you think that organizations who will not adopt online will be actually out of the competition or will not be able to maintain any competitive advantage in the coming future after COVID-19? And thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zaitar. I think the universities that are not incorporating online education previous to COVID have been out of the competition in many ways, because especially masters into doctorate programs, higher ed, students are always now, at least the American culture, they're all working. So the idea of going, an 8 to 5 kind of schedule will not work for them, and they will opt out of going to school for that reason. They'll just say, I can't, I have a 9 to 5 job, I can't go to school. So it becomes evening classes, and evening classes, it became a situation, which is why I taught online for 8 years, because of my two children. I was able to be a stay-at-home mom while teaching for 7 years and 8 years. So same thing for the students I was teaching. They were all adults and they were all professionals wanting a degree. So I think, to answer your question, if you're not thinking, you haven't been thinking of online courses yet, you are behind the curve, definitely. I hope that answers the question. Yeah.
I think due to time constraint, we can take one additional question.
Okay.
We have, Ivan.
Doctor, I would like to ask a question.
Yes. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
It's a great honor to be part of this session. Thank you very much. Thanks to all the participants. And I would like to ask a question. I am a representative of the Faculty of Economics and Business Administration at Sofia University from Bulgaria. I would like to ask just a short question. How do you consider the impact of the COVID-19 over the motivation of the students for their education? Thank you.
That's a very good question, and it's all across the board right now. I think the motivation is improving. Initially, the shutdown, I think, between being scary for a lot of students and being a time to play and mess around. So you had two different kinds of kids. Some kids were like, oh, this is party time, and other kids were scared. So motivation, I think both ways went down, it dipped. And the way universities handled it here was they eased off of the kids. They eased off of finals. They eased off of a lot of the homework. They said just attend. So they tried to bring students back to the table, bring them back to class, make it interactive. And I think we leveled out. I think this year, as of, you know, maybe 2-3 months ago, I think the motivation is where it should be almost, with the hopes that life will go back to normal. But at the same time, they're recognizing that virtual school is school. So it hit them, it's soaked in now, and they realize that, okay, we need to, and I see a lot more serious students now versus March, you know, to summertime.
Thank you, Dr. Rania Sadeh. Thank you for your time, and we all wish you will get better soon.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And I'll respond to the emails, the texts
Okay.
independently. All right. Thank you so much. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Dr. Alexander Levenchko, he is a professor of economics, vice rector for scientific activities of the Central Ukrainian National Technical University since 2014. He was the deputy head of International Relations Department. He was also the dean of the Faculty of Student Training for Foreign Countries, the dean of the Faculty of Economics and Management. He was the first deputy director of the Department of Higher Education at the Ministry of Education and Science of Ukraine. He is currently coordinating many international projects like the Dober Consortium of Universities, Erasmus Plus KA2, and the American Councils for International Education Academic IQ. He is a permanent member of expert groups for developing the strategies for economic and social development of the Kirovohrad region of Ukraine. He is the editor-in-chief of the Central Ukrainian Scientific Bulletin, Economic Sciences, and he is the author of more than 200 scientific and educational works. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Alexander Levchenko. Doctor, you have 25 minutes. We are eager to hear your presentation.
Okay. Good evening, dear colleagues. I would like to congratulate you on our participants in such very actual webinar. It's a very crucial topic which we are discussing today. And I'm very pleased and very grateful to our American University of Culture and Education, and particularly to Dr. Hani Haidura, which are our university and your university. We have very close links and have experience of some joint conferences, some research activity. Today, I would like to say a few words on such topic as modern challenges and opportunities for the development of higher education institutions under conditions of COVID-19 crisis. Okay, I'll. Yes. Process. Like my colleague, I'm also a representative, as you know, of the university. Like all universities all over the world, our university experienced at the beginning of the spring also the problem and challenges with COVID-19. We developed very quickly our contingency plan. We tried to make a shift very quickly from face-to-face education to virtual online learning and teaching. Of course, we are not able to say that we developed very effective model, but right now we can say that we're on the way to this model. We got some first experience of our online teaching, online learning, and of course we are taking this into account and try to develop the model which could allow us to provide really effective model, because we found some difficulties and differences between face-to-face and virtual model of education. And of course, we have to change the role, the culture of teaching staff which are delivering these educational services. And of course, we have to transform way of thinking our students. We have to develop more student-centric model, and students should understand better what knowledges, what competencies they would like to pick up as university, and to be more active in this process. And of course, our teachers should more navigate them and facilitate on this way. And of course, it's necessary, it will require some time to meet all new challenges. The main issues I would like to cover briefly in my presentation are characteristics and specific trends in the function of higher education by the countries under conditions COVID-19 crisis, labor market transformation, demand for distance learning courses, modern challenges and realities of higher education development, what higher education will look like after the COVID-19 crisis, and how we can improve the quality of higher education in the conditions of new realities. I think I will start from all-known, well-recognized statistic that pandemic saw as many as 1.3 billion learning affected this year. Schools and universities were forced to close. Of course, it's big figures, and of course, pandemic affected on international mobility as the students, so teaching staff, professors, faculties, and also we can say it affected our research activity. A lot of programs like Erasmus Plus and some other also couldn't reach objectives because of stopping international mobility, and some participants were not able to visit different universities, of course, to provide their international mobility. Yeah. Also, I would like to pay attention to survey results or outcomes of survey report, International Association of Universities, which found that 59% of the replied universities, 59% of universities replied that all campuses, campus activities have stopped and institutions is completely closed. The percentage of institutions in Africa and some other reporting to the same question is as high as 77%. Also, we can see from this survey that a lot of universities really very rapidly change their attitude attitude and approaches to educational process, and of course make a shift to virtual education. And of course, they are going on to improve their model of virtual education. Of course, 46% believe that the impact will affect both international and local students. So the process, the COVID-19 pandemic really will affect negatively on enrollment process for domestic and international students in research activity and so on. Also, I would like maybe to pay attention to some labor market changes and some risks on labor market. According to Future Job Survey, World Economic Forum, we can see that there are sub-industries which have risk for their workers to be unemployed. The high risk of accommodation and food services, then 47%, then wholesale and retail trade, transport, education, and the less risk, financial services, insurance, mining, agriculture, utilities. And one more important question, what businesses would like to do that to adapt in response to COVID-19? But of course, we can see from survey that 80% of businesses, first of all, they would like to do accelerate digitalization of work processes, then to provide more opportunities to work remotely. So accelerate automation of tasks and so on. some other questions. So as we see, business try to introduce up-to-date technologies which are related with digitalization, blockchain technologies, some others that eliminate some live labor and to provide maybe some robotics, some program, some software, and so on. And one more slide, which is devoted to technologies likely to be adopted by 2025, according to this survey. Of course, the first place, 17% cloud computing, and also would like to point out distributed ledger technologies, robot non-humanoid, and robot humanoid. Again, we can see that main technologies try to eliminate human factor, and of course, it will eliminate some risks which are related with human factor, especially under conditions of COVID or other pandemic possible. I mean, perceived barriers to adoption and new technologies. Of course, the first place, top spot, skills gaps in the local labor market, inability to attract specialized talent, skill gaps among organization leaderships. As far as we see, skill gaps, it's a common problem, general problem for countries all over the world. And of course, we can do it. What is this? The next slide I would like is how should react the labor market, how should react, how the education institutions should react the labor market transformation. Which, of course, we have to change the structure, specialties. We have to provide training on digitalization skills for a lot of people. We have to improve the skills in field of soft skills, team working, leadership, time management, because they're very critical in regard that people should work remotely, and they have to contact each other very intensively, and they have to be very qualified to work in different groups, to be joined very quickly in team, and to complete all plans and some to complete very difficult and very different tasks on time. The next slide is devoted to...
Doctor, kindly, can you reshare your screen, please?
Okay, just...
Sure.
The next. Okay. The next slide is devoted to frequency of queries over the past 5 years on research network, Google, or for mass open online courses. As we can see, that starting from a pandemic period, the queries on distant online courses grew rapidly, especially Coursera. Also, we have a lot of other different online courses. I just stated only 3 ones that to demonstrate increasing the interest to online courses. And also, the next slide is devoted also to some online distant learning services like Zoom, Skype, Google Meet, Google Hangout, and so on. As we can see, Zoom is very, very popular. And I would like to add that this company Zoom, their price per share increased from March. It was around $80 per share. Right now it's around $400 per share. So Zoom is very popular and on stock market too. Also, modern challenges and realities of higher education transformation. Okay, I would like to read one more time. Someone would like to draw? But I would like to say that main challenges, transition to and realities, transition to distance learning. Of course, no doubt we have to transfer to this model of learning. Possibly, as said my colleague previously, it's going to be more blended model, which would be based on face-to-face and virtual education. Another one, growth of information overload. Yes, as far as we can see, we experience that our teaching staff really are overloaded because they have to process much more information than it was previously, and they have to provide methodical recommendations for our distant student, also in more intensive regime. So also unwillingness of certain categories of teachers to work online. Also, there is a problem, especially we have some teaching staff which are after 50, maybe years, even about 60 years, they are not accustomed to work in online education. The next point, digital divide. Digital divide is a really well-recognized problem, which are related with access to internet, some IT technologies. Another problem, skills of using ICT and digital skills. Yes. Next point, imperfection of local distance learning systems. Yes, we have different systems, and I would like to add that if we would like to provide holistically the educational process and to get corresponding holistical outcomes of this educational process, just to distribute, just to deliver content, educational content is not enough, because we have to be, yes, to change some, as it was stated, some distant culture. We have to elaborate new approaches to distant learning, and we have to find new ways to provide support for our students, that to provide more comfortable this and cause this process for them. The next point, lack of effective time management skills. Yes, the distance learning requires well-developed time management skills, because everything is yes, everything, all activity should be very strict on time, linked to time, and of course we have to be very strict to our schedule. The complexity of competition with the world's powerful university, I think it's clear. Strengthening differentiation in terms of educational activities, in terms of regional and countries. I think that different regions, they have some special features. It depends on countries, well-developed, not very developed countries, some reasons, and also it reflects on their ability to adapt new online, new informational communication technologies. Complication of practical training by students in terms of quarantine. Yes, we have some specialties, some educational programs which are related with more practical moments, maybe some mechanical engineering, maybe some specialties which are related with medicine. So they require more practical moment, and it should be taken into account. After completion of content measures, the higher education system, as many countries, will be significantly transformed, taking into account the experience gained. I think there is no doubt that we won't be able to find previous mode of education after completion of quarantine. Because we during the quarantine we find during this period we found some weak places of a traditional model of educations, and also we reconsidered some positive moment of such model of education. And of course, we found some advantages of online model of education, and this model is more effective. This model let us to collect much more information and disseminate this information very quickly. We have an ability to and opportunity to set up different meetings, webinars, conferences very quickly, and to invite and to get involved our colleagues all over the world very rapidly. I think it's very crucial for modern educational process. It's in this slide I would like to repeat. It's about digital divide. I'll transfer to another one. Yes, of course. In this slide, I just stated the percentage of individuals using the internet according to network readiness index. As we can see in regard to digital divide, so this percentage is very, very different among the countries. That's why introduction of online learning, virtual education may be complicated for countries which they don't have an opportunity for individuals to be involved, to be linked to up-to-date technologies, to which don't have a good internet connection, which don't have well spread information communication technologies, modern technologies, and it's maybe a problem. The next slide I would like to discuss. It's about regarding again World Economic Forum, about in which way different countries can see our higher education be conducted in 5 years. As we can see, we have two main groups of countries. Some of them emphasize on face-to-face contact education, like India, Saudi Arabia, South Africa, Malaysia, Australia, and some countries, so it's online education, and some currently Italian person face-to-face education, like South Korea, Japan, Peru, Argentina, but undoubtedly we can see that all of them they emphasize on blended model. We have a very high percentage. So every country, all experts from different countries, everyone taking into account that the real effective model of the future will be only blended on blended basis. The difference we can explain between different countries, that the countries like Japan and China with fewer diseases, COVID-19, they have advantage of in-person learning. At the same time, countries with the highest number of COVID-19 diseases, India, Brazil, their high advantage is they can see high advantage of online learning. And last slide about direction of possible direction of higher education development. I think that I will repeat some common things which you know, but I would like to summarize that anyway, in the future, development of our education development, increasing of quality of educational services, we have to develop material, technical, technological, organization, administrative, training, and scientific base. Especially in Ukraine, we have some lack of financial resources, and we are not able to buy all hardware we need, some software we need. Of course, we have lack of opportunity sometimes, but anyway, we understand that without strong modern technological and technological basis, we are not able to develop up-to-date model of education, particularly distance learning, this virtual education. The next point, to conduct an educational and scientific activities online with engagement of foreign partners. As far as I see, the problem of the problem that a lot of international research projects were postponed because of we have planned this realization of this project on previous basis, face-to-face contacts. At the current moment, we have to reconsider our attitude, our vision of realization of this project, and maybe to set up new partnerships which allow us to develop our researchers by means of other research institutions, other universities, staying at home, at least until the problem of the challenge of international mobility will be solved. As next point, organizational, informational, moral, and psychological support of participants of the educational process to work effectively online. Yes, the problem, as we see, and with our students, they need personal assistance sometimes. They need personal facilitating. They are not accustomed to work autonomously, completely autonomously, maybe, and they need to have meeting with the professor to discuss something, maybe sometimes to find time to visit him at university and to get face-to-face consultancy from him. And of course, we have to change maybe the way of teaching in distance learning model. As said my colleague previously, we have to introduce new, more creative culture. We have to reconsider some psychological moment of interaction, our interaction with our students, and to, of course, to upskill our teaching staff, and of course to maybe transform a way of thinking our students for the future, that to provide more effective way of education, which would be oriented on high quality outcome. Dear colleagues, I highlighted all my main points on my issue. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Levchenko, for your interesting presentation, despite the coloring and the drawings.
Yes, yes.
Thank you for your time. I'm sure there are many participants who would like to ask you questions or ask for your feedback or additional clarification, but we will leave all the questions till after the presentation of all the guest speakers. So we will take all the questions at the end.
Okay, okay.
Dr. Hassan Abed is a professor of finance and director of the MBA program at the European Business School, Paris. He is the president of the Research and Economic Development Center. He has worked for AACSB accredited international universities, and he teaches geoeconomics at the Lebanese University. Dr. Abed is an economic analyst, and he worked as a finance trainer. His areas of research include company performance, bank efficiency, ICT, and privatization. Dr. Abed is the author of several international articles and books. He is also a member of the editorial board for various academic journals. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Abed. Dr. Abed?
Yes. Do you listen?
Yes.
Hello, Rania. How are you?
Hi. I'm good.
Well, thank you very much for your invitation. Thanks to Dr. Haidura, Vice President of AUCE, to Dr. Rushdie Zaiter for this invitation. Thank you, Dr. Rani. Hello, everyone. academic teams, for the student, for the guest, and for everyone. Well, as you know now, I would like to talk about a subject, I know it. So I'm not going to talk about health and everything, maybe related to the health. I'm going to talk finance. But before to start the finance, my subject today is related to the artificial intelligence and the firm performance. So is that artificial intelligence is really intelligent? Well, to answer this question, I would like to share just with you some presentation maybe, and would like to start with a small video. I'm not going to finish it, just the beginning of the video. Started this video talk about the history of France. So this is France in 1890. You can imagine that at the moment, we couldn't do a video like this, but thanks to the artificial intelligence, we did it. This is Paris in 1890. We use some program, and for sure we use artificial intelligence to understand the history, to lead the present, and to create the future. Well, I think it's enough for the video. The artificial intelligence also helped us to understand a lot of things and to resolve some problem related to the COVID-19, especially in the health system and the health sector. We can see OECD published a paper and published a document talk about the importance of robots and blue dot scans and so on to help humanity to resolve the problem related to the health crisis. So is the artificial intelligence very important for the performance of the firm? I'm talking here financial performance. And when I say financial performance, we mean production, we mean productivity, we mean ROE, return on equity, return on capital, and so on. So artificial intelligence, AI, covers a wide range of technologies, including machine translation, chatbots, and self-learning algorithm, and all of which can allow individuals to better understand their environment and act accordingly. It has become key variable in the performance of business. I'm not the only one to say that. A lot of others say that. You can say Cardona, Fadila, and Shouvradi 2019, and so on. It can help to understand the environment and the relationship with the stakeholders, not only the stockholder, but the stakeholder, all of the stakeholder, customer, the suppliers, and so on. AI can help us to reduce the cost. As Lorky and all said in 2006 and 2012, Meta said that. And it can help us also to process and to use better the information available. And it can help also to facilitate and to do more innovation and to reduce the cost for the productivity improvement. I will show you here just two papers. One of them is done in 2020, and the second one will be published in 2021. So Wamba, Tagimji, and all 2020 studying the influence of AI on the performance of organization and more specifically on the business value of such organizations. They made a review of 500 case studies from IBM, Cloudera, Nevada, and so on. They show that the result is the AI have benefits in the organization, and more specifically, its ability to improve on performance at both the organization, financial, market, and administrative process level. Another paper will be published in the 2021. I'm one of the other. We are three authors in this paper. It will be published in the 2021 in Management every year, talking about or investigate the role of the ICT. ICT is a part of the AI. Not only the ICT, and here the key word, it's a very important word. So the ICT and the human capital and organizational practice in determining firm performance. We use a panel of 70 manufacturing SME. Between 2012 and 2015, we say that there is a significant relationship between the level of ICT, the level of human capital qualifications, and the profitability of the firm. So it's very important to do this link between the AI and the human capital qualification ability to manage the AI. We have some related, a lot of papers. So here, for the interested student maybe, or for the interested researchers, there is a lot of paper I can provide it. Here I show some papers you can see about that. So as conclusion for this part, I can say that there is a very important relationship between the AI and the firm performance. So what about the COVID-19? We say that the COVID-19 had a very important impact on the financial market and for sure on the performance of the firm, because the performance of the firm is shown in the financial market, is reflected in the financial market, and this is depend on the transparency of the financial market. When the financial market, more the financial market is more transparent, more the performance of the firm will be reflected in financial market. So here we can see that some comparison between all of the crises and the last crisis of coronavirus. So you have the biggest one is the Great Depression of 1930, and we are here in at the beginning of the coronavirus. We say that the financial market had a very important impact also on the international indexes, like Nikkei, Dow Jones, FTSE, and so on. So what about the banks? We say that the price to book ratio shut down in the period of the coronavirus around the world, Euro area, US, UK, Switzerland, Japan, and so on. The price to book ratio show the financial market ratio, or the financial market impact, the financial market importance of the company. But on the other hand, we say that the giant of GAFAM Google, Apple, Facebook, Amazon, and Microsoft, it's a huge information well. In October 2020, comparison to the January 2010, we say that the market capitalization of those firms is huge, is very big. So what's mean that? That means today we need to pay attention about the technology sector. So we say that the technology sector has a very important evolution. I can give you another digit, maybe. We are on Zoom now. I can tell you that Zoom, when there is an IPO in April 2019, the price of the share was $36. Today, the price of the share just now equal to $403. So that means we have a ratio of evolution equal to 1,000%, exactly 1,019%. Zoom, Microsoft, Amazon, Apple. This is artificial intelligence. This is a technology. What about tomorrow? Citrix is an important company working in the AI, made a study and asked a question about the work in the year 2035. And to understand the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on attitudes toward the future of the work. They made a study over the 500 interviews with C-suite leaders and 1,000 interviews with employees from medium and large size company in large sectors and in such companies, well, countries like USA, UK, Germany, France, and Netherlands. The results show that there is, well, this document is exactly 72 pages. I'm not going to show all of the results, but just to try to answer some question. So the first question is the technology typing point. Well, the year that professionals believe their organization will generate more revenue from technology and AI than human workers. They believe that in 2028 and 2029 will be the best result and will decline in 2031 to grow up to 2035 to 6%. Another question, very important to understand the vision of the leaders and the vision of employees related to the job, because it's very important to understand, will the AI take a place and will the AI replace the human job? Well, the answer is the function of department that will be created by 2035. Most leaders anticipate the creation of new roles, but fewer than half of employees think this role will emerge. As you can see here, I can take an example, temporary working manager. So 60% of leaders think that will get this role, but the employee, only 23% think about that. So we don't have the same vision, but in general, if we have between 23 and 44, the employee vision, I think it's a good vision. By the way, as conclusion of this part, so we can say that most business leaders anticipate a powered productive world. Powered productive world, that means of strong corporate sector, followed by a flourishing partnership. That means they believe that we will get a partnership between people and technology. But the employees think about a platform plug-in model. So this platform plug-in model, they believe a big corporate no longer dominant and many roles replaced by technology. over 3/4 of professionals, 77%, think that by 2035, AI will significantly speed up their decision-making process, making them more productive. So they think that 77% is a very huge percentage from the professional, and they think that the AI in 2035 will help them to be more productive. So this result show again the importance of the AI in the firm performance. It's not all, show that also that we need to pay attention about this point, that the AI will not take a place of the employee. So what? We can say that Boeing company has laid off 67,700 of its workforces as a result of losing out of cash flow. On the other hand, companies in high demand and better financial positions, such as GAFAM, we said, are recruiting talents. We think that now is the opportunity time to recruit intellectual capitals than during this time. Business should be proactive by recruiting talents and use this downtimes to develop their existing pool of talent. So if we believe on the AI and we think that the AI will not replace the role of the employee, what to do? Because really, if we don't react as we should react, maybe the AI will take the place of the person, of the people. In this case, what to do? To address this change quickly, companies need to adopt or capitalize on their business intelligence strategies through agent risk management, artificial intelligence systems, and data analytics to help make informed decisions to enhance business operations related to COVID-19. So they should establish a formal program to anticipate and fulfill their talent needs, as Capelli in 2008 said that. We should make more training for our employee to understand the AI and to work with the AI as it, because we are in it. So we can't avoid it, but we have to work with it. So we have some ideas to take in hand in our mind, like AIMC, which is the ability of an organization and its staff to administrator or to model intelligence behavior in a computer or technology to create added value for the organization's sustainability and so on. The last question maybe, will the AI replace the human with unethical practice? So really, for the moment, there are currently no regulations. So why we ask researchers and we ask governments to put some regulations related to the subject, because there is currently no regulations governing the functioning of AI and ensuring that it does not violate ethical rules. Some researchers ask and they try to develop, to build intelligent ethical system, but for the moment, we don't have an ethical rules to govern create or to make this job more ethical, or this innovation more ethical. So this is a job of governments, of international regulations. I don't know, maybe IFRS. I don't know, maybe BAL in the banking sector. Well, and the G20 need to work in this subject, because ethics is the main subject, is the main is the heart of the job, the heart of the business, the heart of the money. If we have no ethics, so we can't continue our job. Maybe we can earn in the short term, but for sure, in the long term, the big loser is the humanity. So why? You will allow me maybe to finish with an Arabic بيت شعر, say شهم الفؤاد ذكاؤه ما مثله عند العزيمة في الأنام ذكاء. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Abed, for this scientific and detailed presentation. It's very interesting. There are already a lot of questions for you in chat, but as we said, we have to leave them. We will take them at the end of the last part of the webinar. Thank you so much. Dr. Sahir Al-Annan is an associate professor as well as a trainer for change management, leadership, and entrepreneurship. He is presently the Dean of the MBA program at the Arab Open University Beirut branch. Dr. Al-Annan has been a university professor for nearly 20 years with a strong desire to help students recognize the connection between learning and experience. Dedicated, resourceful, and goal-driven professional educator with a solid commitment to social and academic growth. He has served on many conferences, thesis and dissertation committees, and workshop program committees. Dr. Al-Annan is an active academic publisher on leadership, management, supply chain management, education, CSR, and many other subjects in the academic sector. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Al-Annan. You have 25 minutes.
Well, thank you very much for this introduction, and thanks for inviting me to this great webinar. I'm humbled to share some thoughts, and I want to thank as well Professor Sadiq Lovinsky and Dr. Awaid, who have shared important points which they took off of my shoulder, a lot of discussion. What I want to discuss today is the dilemma of transforming appropriate skills and competencies to students during this pandemic. Another point which I would like to share with you, that educators have come to a realistic points that we cannot keep building or barging on yesterday's glory of delivering the best quality education without taking into consideration the rationality, measurability of how to transfer or transform these appropriate skills and competencies to students. So another point to be taken into consideration, which was said earlier, that we must not remain passive in the face of a change which indeed can jeopardize our basic social value. So my understanding from this gathering that we are present today to acknowledge the need to manage the process of a change that we are facing in regard of educators and learners who are in constant struggle to leverage the best way to facilitate learning. So we have come to facilitation rather than teaching, another tool to provide and to reinstitute the valuable skills which will enhance the chance to find a decent job. That's our journey in the academia, is to nourish, is to equip those people to find decent job and to be productive in the society that they live in. So another point just to take into consideration, the responsibilities are set to prepare the ground for us first as educators. What we should do first, we should revisit our own skills, our own tools. We should re-equip ourselves with measurable competencies to aid and nourish those learners and how to become competitive in a view of this new dynamics which are affecting once again our economy, our society, and especially our labor market. We have to be transparent when we say labor market, for we have a lot of graduates who are aged workers, who are aged in technical, who are aged in reflection and critical thinking. So we have to rethink it another time on how to deliver, how to engage with them, which once again, Professor Sadiq had had shed the light on it earlier. So basically, we cannot sit around and wait for a recovery to improve the social situation. In fact, my understanding that recovery will continue to be weak if we do not tackle the social impact and these crises and be fair as a priority. I will also share with you my presentation, which speaks and tackles some issues. I named it dilemmas. Is it the challenges? Is it dilemmas? It all depends on those skillful educators. It is depend on how they're facing it, how they're contributing, and how they're engaging with the students. Engaging is the key word. Learning how to critically think is another pillar of our students. So please allow me to share some thoughts of this presentation. First, as we all know, the COVID-19 has brought many existing patterns and trends to the surface. However, we glimpsed various weaknesses and vulnerabilities in transferring skills and competency to students by the privatization of education to digital and distant learning. Another point here I will shed the light on that skills to transfer it is to embedded a specific subject with what we call it student manual, has to practice. He or she must deliver, must ask the question, must be engaged. So another epidemic that we have, and I call it epidemic, that not everyone has access due to technical or economic issues, which was brought to our attention, inequity. We have to consider that sometimes the language or the way of teaching is a barrier. What I mean here by barrier does not mean that if I speak English and the other are efficient and they speak excellent the language, it means that the thought, the idea, the transformation of how to tackle the problem is being understood, and this has to be remedied once again. We know that some university tutors lack of pedagogical content knowledge which needed for proper online teaching. Online teaching again must be transformed into amalgamating teaching, technical and administrative aspect. Knowledge and principle needed to be designed and redesigned and continually innovate on the best way to deliver and the best way to engage. This will facilitate meaningful online learning experience. Another point, how do we deliver skills? How do we build competencies? Are they the factors of the intended learning outcome of the chapter or of the module that we are delivering? We should also take into consideration here a sensitive point. When we say intended learning outcome, it has to be equipped with some sort of technical skill. Lab, I'll give an example. For instance, for management, it's not only we have to present PowerPoint or lecture, plus we said that we have to engage, we have to contextualize, we have to show connectivities, but perhaps we should revisit the curriculum itself on how we provide technical means, something that they can practice on how real manager solve a problem. In finance, the same thing, in marketing. So we're talking about MBA students, the pillar of the society, the pillar of innovation, of creativity. And I'm not saying that undergrad are not, just because my job lies within this aspect. So online learning is based more on material, reading, videos, exercises, etc. We have to have here personal interaction. We have to be more vulnerable to students. We have to engage with them. We have to find the channels between us. Now,
Sir, kindly, can you reshare your screen, please?
Yes. I will. Sorry for the delay. It's just trying to get it open. And to share it once again. Can you see it now?
Not yet.
Is it shared for some reason now?
Not yet.
I think
It's good.
It's good. So
Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, it's not even the one. I'll catch up with time. So just bear with me. Now it should share. Okay, so we got, I believe, to lack of infrastructure. Here's another downfall, that given this lack of infrastructure, most of the advice and support for non-expert online teacher has focused on technological tools, which what we mean by it is just open the slide, deliver the slide, say the content, and here we go, we have delivered what it's needed to be delivered. That shouldn't be the case. Acquiring now skills and competencies, teachers, tutors found it hard to keep learners engaged when large number of students. So what we should do, once again, we should divide them into rooms if we are using Zoom or any other platform. So everyone has the full right to engage, to become a participant, to give his or her reflective opinion on what it's been delivered to them. This is another point that must be taken seriously for us as educators. Now, just to embrace what I've just discussed, there are some suggested solutions, which I'm sure that everyone is aware of them, how we strengthening education. We always bring government, and now in the third world or in our country or in the MENA region in particularly, government's last thought is to pump money in the education system, which once again, it is the pillar, it is the important sector of nourishing young, new workers, innovators. So government should value the teaching profession, which we're still behind, unfortunately. and teacher collaboration. Now, what we seek, what we mean by teacher collaboration, like what we are witnessing now, we're trying to reach out to some professors, to some researchers to share the new school of thoughts, new theory, new way of delivery. So this is another point. And another point, by making free and open source educational technology. So it has the suggested solution which should be implemented. However, realistically, in our countries, we are still way behind. Collaboration, teacher collaboration should expand to include engagement with a wide set of educational stakeholders, particularly because in this pandemic, those engaged in education system have shown the most resilience. Indeed, students, professors, tutors, every one of them, without omitting anyone, showing resilience, thriving to learn, thriving to better his or her life, trying to learn new tools, tools that will enable him or her to find a job in this destructive market, because we are all virtual today. So those technicals who work with their hands may find difficulty to find a job. So here, another point that we have to be innovative. What are the substitute, the alternative? What can we tell them or pave the way for them to learn so they can have one day a career rather than a job? And what fears most today, that unemployment is high, a job hunt is low, except for, not except as 100% exception for technology. So even those who come from different schools of thoughts, not scientific schools of thoughts, must rethink of their skills. I myself will give an example that I'm now learning some skills, how to use certain software, how to use a smart board to make the class more engaging. So it's not a shame if we don't know, it is a shame if we do not learn. So don't make everything an objective test. This is another thing. For our students, and especially for the MBA, we shouldn't ask the questions as discuss. We should make it analytical, critical, critically analyze, so they cannot cheat. And if they cheat, in the end of the day, this will be their loss. But we should place those kind of questions so we can help them how to solve a problem in the long run, how to engage with employees or employers. So let students demonstrate that they learn and able to apply it. How would they apply it? Let us bring some real case studies from real corporations, and let us make them think as they are the CEOs or the general managers. How would they take a decision? But this is not enough. How they took this decision, but this is not enough. How they will implement it, and what would be the result, and how they see it. So it is basically some sort of research. Retrain this way of thinking and retrain their way of approaching problems. A curriculum indeed that explores the relationship between knowledge, fact, and skills. One that is capable to granting students the competencies needed to understand and situated themselves in a complex world. A point to be taken into consideration for us as educators, even if by law, and we know sometimes we cannot change the curriculum based on a higher Ministry of Education, that's fine. But we can add something. We can add lab to those students, even from home. There are virtual softwares for finance, for accounting, for marketing. Enhance their creativity, enhance their thoughts, enhance their skills. And to the learners, I have a word to say as well before I continue. Teacher, tutors, We're not here to make you an expert in 3 hours or in 1 semester, and we cannot. We will pave the way for you. We will give you some advices. We will work with you, but it's a learning curve and you should be responsible for it. You should take an initiative. Don't wait for us, don't wait for anybody. Leaders take an initiative. They're responsible for their action. They stay focused on their goal. They stay focused on where they're going to be 5 years from today. And this is a statement I always say it to my colleagues, the MBA candidates. The very first lecture, I would ask them, why would you register for this program? So where are you going to be 5 years from today? Are you coming to get your MBA? No, an MBA is not enough. You have to be a maestro. You have to know how to orchestrate. And to do so, it does not take only lectures. It takes a training, continuous training. And for us as well, it takes training. We should be trained on a let's say per semester, whatever comes new technology or any sort of technique that will help us and will help our students. That's what we should do. Digital skills, while tutor adjust to the new remote learning environment, they have to hone digital resources and use novel tools. The rapid digital uptake has also demanded enhanced skills from tutors. Indeed, we all know it and we cannot just hide it. We all should seek it. And once again, the smart board was not built to be framed. Let us take advantage of it. Let us make those learners engage more. Let us see us as if we are in a classroom. We can interact. We can send the encode decoding might be better. They see us in front of them. They may not shake our hands, but it's okay. It is okay. This will put them in a comfort zone. It will boost their motivation. They will be able to express what they do not understand or they did not understand, or maybe a problem in solving certain questions of their case study or the TMA. That's what we call it in the British Open University. Socio-emotional skills, the mental well-being became increasingly important for students to be thoughtfully present and engaged. The more they're engaged, the more they discuss, the more they feel that they are individuals, and I repeat the word individual, and we must recognize those learners as individuals to boost their confidence. Thus, tutors are to train themselves with elements of self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationships, skills, and responsible decision-making. So every decision we make, it will have the positive or the negative on our young adult learners. Teacher or the tutors must train themselves to know how to enhance resiliency, and we cannot enhance resiliency unless we rethink, revisit our skills to build what is necessary to face this pandemic. My last word for today, the closing statement, this is a time for pragmatism and quick action. We cannot abandon scientific evidence, nor we can operate without principles. We went back to principles. We went back to ethics. Choices must be based on a humanistic vision of education and development and a human rights framework. Another word, just metaphorically speaking, that we have now to defy gravity. And thank you very much for listening. Thanks for sharing some thoughts from the professors, and stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Annan, for your inspiring and very interesting presentation. I think we can take the questions now. There are already a collection of nice questions. I have to go back to the chat to start answering the questions. Okay. I'm just trying to reach the first question. Okay. Dr. Abed, how COVID-19 has pushed companies over the technology tipping point and transformed business forever?
Well, I read this question for sure. As we said, and I said it for the first time, starting February, March, and every economic and financial manager know that the business before the COVID-19 is different from the business and the international relation and commercial relation after the COVID-19. It will not be the same. We'll find more role of the technology of the artificial intelligence, of the services, but there's a heart of the economy will stay here. Now, one asks maybe about the crypto money or the currency, cryptocurrency, that's mean Bitcoin and so on. And that. What's the importance of the Bitcoin and something like this? And will the Bitcoin replace the dollar, replace the euro, replace the lira? We think in the same time, in the same method. In fact, the heart of the economy is the added value, is the production, the agriculture. It's not the service. So the technology now help for the services. Now we are providing services, which is education, the knowledge, using Zoom. Sometimes we can use, I don't know, Teams or another thing. But I need to sweat, I need to eat, I need to walk. So this is the heart of the economy. If I don't have the added value, the economy, the production, agriculture, everything is, as we say in France, is a blah blah. This is a reality, okay? Because I received some question related to the Lebanon and what about the lira and what about the relationship between Lebanon and the Arabic countries and the international countries. Well, and are we going to grow up and to resolve the problem? It depends on the ability and it depends on the will. Do we really wanna resolve the problem? It's a question of the, well, of the, if you want to do it, we can do it. If we don't do it, we cannot. I can just share more vision, one more vision maybe, about the investment in Europe and everywhere. You know, in Europe now every bank or every company talk about the performance. And when I say performance, for the moment, I explained for, I don't know, 20 minutes, the financial performance. Now, in Europe, starting 2018, we talk about an extra financial performance. What's mean the extra financial performance? I will show you, if you allow me, just maybe the last, well, show you this. Oh, I can share the screen. I think that you can see my screen.
Yes.
So the extra performance now, to measure the performance of the investment, to measure the performance of the bank, it's not only to do more ROE, return on equity. It's not only the net profit margin will be the highest one. No. So to be performant, you need to get a response to provide response about 17 criteria. And those 17 criteria are: the first one is no poverty.
Mm-hmm.
The fourth one, quality of education, life and land, and so on. So now, to continue very well with the artificial intelligence, the government need to play their roles. In fact, the problem is when we have no equilibrium between the artificial intelligence, a new product coming in the Arab countries, know that those countries are not ready to receive this product. So we need to grow up, we need to work to receive this product.
Thank you. Well, we have another question also for Dr. Abed. Do you think that artificial intelligence will bring us more benefits or create more problems?
No, I think it's if we know how to work with the artificial intelligence, and as Dr. Sahar said, we need to work more on our skills and to do more learning, to learn more, to understand more. Unfortunately, if the question coming from Lebanon, I'm sorry to say that we don't have the infrastructure to up to date our information, but around the world, I think that the people try to do it. So why? For example, I'm managing now an MBA cybersecurity, an MBA of data analysis. So this is a training today in Europe. So we are trying to offer our students and offer the future managers the necessary skills to manage artificial intelligence and the new technology.
Thank you. We can take also questions if you want by raising your hand, and I'll be reading questions from chat, and at the same time we can take them oral questions. We have, okay, let's allow Muhammad Husseini, if you want to ask your question.
Yes, hello, Dr. Rania. Hello, Dr. Hassan.
Hello.
Doctor, I have a question related to AI deployment, because we're having a huge problem in deploying AI, mainly in the banking sector, because you highlighted the financial sector in your presentation. You highlighted the positive side, but we're monitoring huge cybersecurity breaches in deploying AI, especially that the engine is independent and requires higher privilege in deploying in the infrastructure. I work in the Central Bank of Lebanon because in the IT department. This is why we're having this problem mainly in study.
The problem is with the governor. It's not with the AI.
No, but we were studying the AI technology to deploy it in our infrastructure, and I'm pleased to say we have the latest technology in our IT department. But the problem in AI, and also you highlighted the IBM part. IBM always point to go to AI, but we have to maintain our physical presence, and it needs always continuous monitoring, continuous tuning, non-stop tuning.
Okay, you know, in December 2016, there was a conference of the economy in Bristol Hotel in Lebanon, Phoenicia or Bristol, I don't remember. It was under the I don't know how to say it. Well, Maali, the Chief of Parliament, Mr. Nabih Berri, and with Dr. Mr. Riyad Salemi, and the Ministry of Finance. And I got a speak. It was in December 2016. And I said, it's very important for the banking sector in Lebanon to manage very well their technology and to switch to the online banking, to the mobile banking, and to follow the news in the banking news and the banking sector. The problem is they didn't do it as well, and they hold the branches everywhere because the cost of the branch of the location in Lebanon, it's not, of the rent of Lebanon, it's not very high. So they continue to work in this way. And the COVID-19 came. When the COVID-19 came, it surprised everyone. So they are shocked because they were not prepared. And I can tell you now, if there is another crisis later, not only the banking sector, all of the sectors will shut down because we are not preparing, we are not planning for. So to follow the world, we need to follow the world in all the branches. We cannot follow the world in one branch and forget them on all the branches. Now, for example, take an example, the education. So Dr. Sahar and Dr. Rania talked about that. So the education, our students in Lebanon are at home, but we have no internet. So it's mandatory to be at home because there is a COVID-19, because we have no internet, but we have no internet, we have no electricity. To follow the world, we need to follow the world in all of the aspects. Or we have to live, in another world, I don't know where.
Thank you, Doctor. We have a question from Dr. Batul Zaiter.
Yes.
She's asking, do you think that the pandemic of COVID-19 will necessitate the implementation of artificial intelligence in different industries to be able to cope with the new changes and business models?
The answer is absolutely yes. And especially in Lebanon, and I'd advise as a Minister of Agriculture for a few months ago, I advise us to work on the food tech, food technology. And why not? Let's use it. Let's answer the technology in the industry in Lebanon. Okay? In the Valley of Ika, and the, in Akkar. So try to innovate, try to, as said Dr. Sahir Al-Annan. So really you have in Lebanon very big head in the innovation. This man called Dr. Sahir Al-Annan, and I know Dr. Sahir personally. So he told always to the student, be unique, be innovate. So, in Lebanon, now we have very big human capital. Our students are young. We have a long, so let's work on the technology. Waze was created by 3 persons and was sold by, I think, $7 billion. And I know that in Lebanon, we can do it. And I know some sectors are working on this sector. So yes, Dr. Zaiter, we need to implement and we must implement it.
Okay, thank you. Does access to computers and the internet give the education systems of industrialized countries an advantage over those in developing countries?
Sorry, I didn't.
Okay. Does access to computers and the internet give the education systems of industrialized countries an advantage over those in developing countries?
I will answer this question to Dr. Sahir or Dr. Sadiq.
Okay.
if you allow me, because education is more Dr. Sahar Al-Annan and Dr. Rima Sadi.
Okay, Doctor.
Yes, in my presentation, I explained about digital divide. So some more industrialized countries, more developed countries, they have better infrastructure, they have better internet connections and better access of individuals to some devices, which led him to participate in this model of education. At the same time, if we got consider a situation in Africa, in some not very well developed countries, we have that covering by up-to-date technologies. ICT technologies is not very high, very low, and this create problems to introduce modern standard of distance education. That's why it's very critical.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you, Doctor.
And of course, it's necessary on the national level to pay attention to this question and to increase access of population to modern technologies.
Mm-hmm. Okay. We have a question for Dr. Al-Annan. Do you think teachers are applying the socio-emotional skills?
Well, I cannot answer holistically, but I know some taking it seriously, they care, and they want to nourish, reapply some new skills. Can I say it's absolutely yes? You know, it's once again, some of them are, some of them are not. As I mentioned earlier, now, not only in Lebanon, no matter where we go, we have even aged educators and we have new educators. And when I say age, I don't mean that they have experience of 20 years at the university or 15 years, age who do not want to improve their skills of delivery of engagement. And when I say new educators are even those who've been in 15 years in the educational institution, they're still working on themselves. They know they are responsible and they share this responsibility even with their students. And what I said here, sharing responsibility with the students, most of the time, the best idea, the creative idea on how to learn a new technology will come from the candidates themselves. Because this is their language today. This is their playground. For us, we are learning those playgrounds. Thank you. I hope I answer your question.
Thank you. Muhammad Awada.
Yes, hello everyone. First of all, thank you for your input, and thank you AUCE for designing this webinar. I have two questions, in fact, one for Dr. Levchenko and one for Dr. Abed. I'll start with Dr. Levchenko. As you know, Doctor, in COVID times, universities now are accepting higher number of students because online platforms have higher capacity to accept them all. However, this means that some professors that used to teach 4 classes, for example, like 20 students per class, are now teaching higher number of students. How can we measure, my question to you is, how can we maintain or measure the quality of education if the professor is not able to manage this number of students? This is the question number one. As for Dr. Abed,
I think yes. we should answer the first question first, and then you ask the second question.
As you like.
Okay, may I reply? I think that's a really serious point, because one of the challenge of online education is overloading, informational overloading of teaching staff, because they have not only to teach maybe more students, but also they have to process more information to provide them with more methodical recommendations. They have to pay more attention to personal, sometimes personal contacts with students, and of course how to measure the quality in this regard. Anyway, we have to provide some educational outcomes. We have of course some questionnaires, maybe some, I think we can use some traditional method, of course, and how to provide, maybe to introduce some innovative approaches to teaching, because we have to improve efficiency of such meetings. We try to use traditional technologies on basis of online learning, but I think it's maybe sometimes incorrect, because students are not able to perceive information in the same way and with the same efficiency. So we have problem. We have more students, as you said, but at the same time we have a less ability of students to accept knowledges and to provide quality of education. That to measure we can see at the end, of course, like we have to make some exams. They have to put some maybe questions, tests, some meeting with their professors, and they can evaluate. But how to provide the quality under such conditions, that is the point, is the question, yes. And I think we have to think and to develop this model just to provide the holistic process of education and to provide real result, high quality of this result. So we just not to be focused on transferring some educational content, but we have to get proper feedback from our students and provide a holistic outcome of our learning educational process.
Thank you, Doctor. Hamad, what is your second question?
Thank you, Doctor, for your input. My second question is for Dr. Abad. Doctor, I was reading while we were preparing for this webinar and its interesting comments. I was reading an AI article released by IMF. So this article deals with fintech and how does that technology and how does AI help the financial firms. So they were saying that now they're releasing new applications and the new softwares to help them with their financial services. However, the study focuses mainly on how can AI facilitate payments over online and how they can access credit if one needs to take a loan. However, my question to you, how does AI affect the human capital? Meaning that now more firms are integrating AI into their systems. Will they need to lay off or hire more employees? Because as you know, one software can be run by one guy and it can do the work of multiple individuals. And if there is a layoff or recruitment of employees, how will this affect the long-term strategy that was previously placed by a financial firm? Especially that in every strategy, as you know, Doctor, there is a place for the development of our human capital, which is the most important asset in a company. But now, since we are sometimes replacing them with AI, how will this affect the overall strategy? Thank you.
Okay. Well, I think that I asked to this question, you know, there is a relation between AI and the human capital, and the human capital need to be up to date of the AI to respond the strategy of the company. So the AI will not replace exactly the human capital only if we don't do the necessary to follow the news and to follow the technology. In 2018, the World Economic Forum estimated that AI will create a net total of 58 million new jobs. So sure, we estimate also that there is an elimination of some jobs, but the result will be always positive. So now the strategy of the company will be always, because now we need to be realistic. The AI is here. The technology is here. We must follow it. Though the strategy is to do more training and to follow the news on the technology and on the AI. So there is no other solution. We must follow the news. We must follow the technology to be up to date on the technology and on the AI also. I think that Lebanon is ready for that, but we need the will. We need that the Lebanese government, Lebanese decision maker, take the good decision to go in the good way. Lebanon is ready because for the moment, there is in Lebanon a very good education, very good universities. As I said, the people is young. If I can do just small comparison between the Lebanon, we have 6 million people. The biggest company in the world is Walmart, has 2.2 million employees. That means Lebanon is around 2 or 3 companies. So one can manage a company, he can manage a people if we wanna manage it. Just an information, I'm not going to compare a company, a country to a company, but to simplify the thing and to say that if we wanna manage, if we wanna find a solution, we can find a solution. So the strategy of the country, the strategy of the companies, the strategy of the banks is the training and the training and the training and the training.
Thank you. We have a question from Mrs. Zahra Darwish. She's asking, as COVID-19 pandemic raised reliance on artificial intelligence systems through e-learning and e-business, shall we witness a certain decline after the pandemic ends, especially that we are at the beginning of the pandemic end, hopefully, as she said. So I think the question is also for Dr. Abed.
Sorry, I'm reading a question. Well, I'm sorry, I didn't listen to the question because I'm reading Usama.
Okay.
Yeah,
the question of Zahra is directly before Usama, if you want to read it.
Okay. As COVID-19 pandemic raised reliance on the system through e-learning and e-business, should we witness a certain decline after the pandemic ends, especially that we are at the beginning of the pandemic and hopefully, I don't understand very well. Pandemic raised reliance on the AI system through e-learning and e-business. Should we witness a certain decline? Where should we, who as we? We, that means the economy, the Lebanon, what do you mean by we?
Mrs. Zahra, are you still with us? If you can clarify your question, please. The economy.
Yeah. Well, the economy, okay, you cannot unmute. Zahra, it depends on which economy. So now we talk about at the beginning, we speak about the V system, V economy. That means the economy will shut down and go up. It was in April, like this. And recently, we estimate that the economy is following the Y system. Y. K system. K system. What's mean K system? Well, all of the economy at the beginning shut down. Some of them grow up, especially the technology sector like GAFAM, and some of them continue to shut down, like the touristic sector. So now when I say economy, it depends on which economy I'm talking. If I'm talking about the global economy of the world, we are going to grow up. If I'm talking about the economy of China, it will grow up. Now it depends on the economy. When the economy is based on the services and only on the services and the touristic system, so it will shut down. When the economy is based on the technology, it will grow up, like US. So US is based on the GAFAM. The 5 biggest technology company in the world are in the USA. So the economy of the USA will grow up, following the K form, the K forma or form.
Okay, thank you. I think we can take the question of Usama since you were reading his message.
But she didn't and okay, welcome Zahra. Well, Usama, Dr. Hassan Zali, Jacob movement of France movement on the ground, raising several demands. On the October 17 revolution, Lebanon took action, raising several demands for comparison. All this move led to a major impact on the economy of each country. As for Lebanon, the impact was and the results were disastrous. Do you think this great impact come as a result or not the presence of a clear strategy or the result of external intervention? Well, I think that is Usama is more a political question. And I think that it's a failure of the system and external intervention, both of them. So Usama, really here, the system in Lebanon, it's not a system of a country. It's a system of a group of people. Shia, Sunni, Durzi, Maruni, I don't know what. So a group of people, and as I said, he said, Ziad al-Rahbani, جمعوهم وربطوهم ببعضهم, and they said that this is a country. It's not a country like this. One, the system. Two, the management of the system. Sometimes you can get a bad system, but a good management, you find a good result. But when you have a bad system, well, sometimes you have a good system and a bad management, maybe you have accepted result. But in Lebanon, you have bad system, bad management, and external intervention. So
we can imagine the situation.
So this is a result, my friend.
Okay. Dr. Rushdi would like to ask you a question. Would like to ask a question. I think you have to, yes.
Yes, very good. Thank you, Dr. Abed. Thank you so much for this information. And I tried my best not to let the students ask political questions, but however, they all know that you are somewhat engaged in some political interviews and they are insisting on doing that. إن شاء الله بنشوفك يعني شي ministry بالنيو
الله يسامحك.
بالنيو ministry. Let me change this to the question. I mean, whenever we read about artificial intelligence, I mean, especially in the COVID-19, let us ask the question in Lebanon. Do you think, I mean, or how could we use artificial intelligence from the research you have made, or what are possible? Yeah, I mean, you talked a little bit about your experience with, I guess, Minister Murtada. What are other industries, or how could we use the artificial intelligence in order to recover from the loss caused by COVID-19 and even by the economic situation that we are, I mean, the economic crisis, let's see it.
Okay.
How we could use these in different sectors.
Thank you, Dr. Ruzi, for this question. You know, we need first of all, to understand exactly what you have as resources. Because to get an output, you need to understand what you have as input. So in Lebanon is rich in the, as I said, in the education, rich in the youth, rich in the also relationship. So, and rich in the agriculture also. We need to invest in our input. As you know, in the balance sheet, you have the input, you have the assets, and you have the liabilities. So you get the liabilities, and you manage it, and you invest, and you get the result. We need to understand, first of all, what you have as input. You invest in the input, you get a good output. Our input is the youth. You need to invest in the youth. You need to learn them how to, teach them how to create a company, how to do a startup, how to use the technology, and you need also to do more production in all of the system, in all of the sectors, and to stop, not to stop, but to, I mean, to reduce our basing on the service system. Because the service system in all of the countries, the service system is service. So the service sector is here to help to improve the production sector and the agriculture sector. Really, Dr. Rashdi, I cannot answer this question if I need to do first diagnostic to understand exactly what do you have. When we know what do you have, we can answer this question to understand what can we do.
Okay, thank you. I think we have to leave. Okay. I think we have to move to the last part of our webinar. And I would like to invite Dr. Ghassan Abdelkader. He is the head of the business department at AUCE in order to provide us with the main findings of the webinar in a few minutes. Dr. Ghassan.
Good evening, Doctor. Good evening, everyone. Presentation is clear. Dr. Rani, can you see the presentation?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, so I need to discuss the main findings of this webinar. Okay, it was not an easy task to do. However, I did my best, hopefully. So I divided the findings into 6 different groups. The first group is about the problems of higher education, and I made a lot of efforts to quote from all the presentations that we have seen today. So the first problem, as we have seen, it was in the human factor, where we have lack of self and time management skills, whether for lecturers or students, and with improper class controlling. Secondly, we have the technology factor. We have a deficiency in some internet connectivities combined with some outdated devices in some cases. The third problem was in financing, with the shortage of funds to modernize equipments and devices. And moreover, the second group of finding, as it was mentioned by Dr. Sahel Annan, it was the dilemma of PCK under COVID-19. The first one was the hardship for instructors to keep learners engaged when large number of students are enrolled. In addition, we have the lack of sharing, trust, discussing, communicating, asking interesting questions, and keeping conversation going on within the learning process. Moreover, we have the inability to transfer skills, competencies through the learning process and within the virtual classrooms. Also, we have the absence of infrastructure and the needed support for the non-expert online teachers. And we have concluded as well that students are or were unlikely to commit large amounts of time and money to consume online content. The third group of findings are about the suggested practical solutions. One main solution was the diversification of tests, whether they are objectives or subjective, and it was recommended to use essay topics that are based on experience that measured learning outcome. We have also to strengthen the education through governmental support, legislation, laws, and so on. Students must be provided with practical experiments of the acquired knowledge, not only theories. We need to initiate a modern curriculum that explores information, facts, and skills. And we have to grant students the competencies needed to understand and situate themselves in a complex coming world. And finally, in this group, it's important to mention what I have called the SMART skills. It's the combination of both socio-emotional on one hand and digital ones on the other hand, whether for instructors and learners. And I think this was discussed as well by Dr. Abed when he mentioned and emphasized on the training for all participants. The fourth group of findings about artificial intelligence within the business models as a tool. I need to re-quote that the giants of IT achieved higher business gains and profits during COVID-19 period. There is a vital need to integrate the artificial intelligence AI in order to increase business performance, productivity. We have to build a link between the artificial intelligence and the human capital for a better management of technology. The firms need to focus on capitalizing the artificial intelligence as a tool for training and production, in addition for services delivery. And finally, we need to pay more attention to preserve the ethical concerns while dealing with artificial intelligence. The fifth group of findings is about what Dr. Sadiq emphasized on. It was about learning culture after COVID-19. We need to mention that it's important to develop a culture of virtual opportunities for universities, schools, and all educational institutions. Learning technology should be seen as an academic opportunity. And there is a very important side in creation of both innovative implementation as well as leadership mentality. And the online education will be a strategic cultural choice for all educational institutions. And it's important to mention here that the success of the learning process comes from the educator herself, himself, not the tools that are used within this process. Finally, the sixth group of findings are the higher education challenges after COVID-19. There are more challenges for quality of education with the needs to modern approaches of evaluation and assessment. There is a need to support the participants, all kinds of participants, whether instructors or learner, within the educational process on the organization level, psychological level, technical level, and so on. The collaboration between international and local participants is vital within the educational activities such as classrooms, conferences, seminars, theses, defenses, and so on. And finally, the choice of blended education is the best choice till now because the online plus the face-to-face learning process will gain advantages of both approaches. Thank you. Thank you for being a patient and adorable audience.
Thank you, Dr. Ghassan, for the findings. They were extremely well explained. Thank you so much for your efforts. Well, we reached the end of the webinar. First of all, I want to acknowledge all of today's participants for their valuable insights, participation, and efforts. Secondly, I need to admit that the discussions of today's webinar have highlighted many ways in which we can be effective together as academicians, instructors, students, and IT practitioners. As members of the academic community, we have done a lot. However, we have to do more in order to cope with all aspects of the pandemic, COVID-19 at the educational level. Finally, we hope that this webinar's findings will be endorsed and applied as much as possible. Thank you to the AUCE community, Dr. Abdessalam Nabilsi, Dr. Hani Haidoura, our honorable guest speakers, and all participants for this fruitful event, and see you soon in the coming webinars at AUCE. Have a nice evening. Thank you so much.
Thanks to you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rania. Good evening, all.
Good evening.
Good evening.